Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Day Early Comics Review Show. I'm Jason,
I'm Andy.
and we're with Infinity Flux Comics. I got flustered with our name. Infinity Flux Comics out of the lovely Chattanooga, Tennessee area. So every Tuesday after we're done bagging and boarding the new comics, we divide up the ones that we think people are just waiting to hear more about. We read them, and then we do this little review show where we try to tell you a lot more about the comics than the solicitations say without spoiling everything.
hmm
We call it our spoiler light show. So we'll tell you a little more. We'll tell you, we try to let people know which comics they'll like, like
hmm
which comics are more written for them than others. We'll also tell you about first appearances, major things like that, but we won't tell you like play by play every little thing. So this week we have some pretty big titles we're going over. You can see the first six of them
hmm
in front of me. We got big books like Venom, Robin and Batman. What's the furthest place from here? Some really big titles. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Yep, the first one I'm going over is Robin and Batman. I've been excited about this one because anytime Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen get together, I mean, there's as a writer's career goes on and stuff, they find their partnership that's like Jeff Loeb and Tim
Yeah.
Sale and uh, stuff like that. So this one, of course, I knew already that this would probably be my pick of the week. I love Jeff Lemire. And this is really cool. I'm a big fan of all the Robins, and this takes a look at Dick Grayson's early career, like very, very early. This takes place before he was even called Robin, which I think is really interesting. It's a time frame I feel like we don't get much. We get like the Robin year one, we get some of that, but this is really, I mean, it seems like maybe only months after Bruce Wayne has adopted Dick Grayson.
Hmm.
And in this, it is a look at not only Robin's or Dick Grayson at this point, his first year training with Bruce, but also Bruce is now like a father. Like that he adopted a son, and of course, this is his first of many, but he's also learning what that means. So it's a very interesting look at kind of from both sides of what is this first year, because it's also pretty much Bruce Wayne's, maybe his first or second year being Batman.
That's a big step for both of them,
Yeah.
this partnership.
So where this picks up is Dick Grayson has a suit. He is not called Robin and is not his Robin suit out fighting crime. Um, but Batman kind of reprimands him for not seeing the bigger picture. He's focusing on one guy's coming and attacking, but he's missing the guy who's off to his side. Batman says, "You're not ready for this. This is too dangerous. We're going to go back to square one. We're going to go back to training." Of course, Dick Grayson doesn't like this. He wants to be out there fighting alongside Batman, but he's essentially grounded. So this is a look at how do they both handle that. Um, how does Batman feel about having a kid out in the crime fighting world? And he addresses that too in a way of a conversation between him and Alfred about. I think even at one point, Batman says, I don't want to have him basically undertrained and be bringing a dead kid home. And then Alfred says, no, you're more comfortable bringing a dead soldier home. And it's a really interesting, like, this is Jeff Lemire, so he's a very personal look at the characters, but also just really fun action. You do see the early hints of why he's called Robin later on, where his suit comes from, why his suit is bright and the opposite of Batman. It may be a hint of rebellion on Dick Grayson's part. And also, this is going to be 3 issues long, so I kind of get a feel of who maybe the overall villain of this series is going to be. And it is, I'll say, one of Gotham's most monstrous villains who may have an unexpected tie to the Flying Graysons. It's a really cool, like, oh wow kind of moment in it. So if I had to pick a pick of the week, it's going to be a hard one this week because there's a lot of good stuff, but this might inch it out just a little bit. This was great. I think it's a little bit bigger size. It's a little bit more deluxe.
Hmm.
Definitely has like the cardstock is on the A cover and everything. So this is Robin and Batman #1.
I like before it's like before Robin is named Robin. What is he named? It's like it's Batman and some kid.
It kind of he brings up at one point that he did not try to push for Batboy too hard. He knew as soon as he brought it up that Batman would not go for that. Then we have of course, Jeff Lemire doing his variant. And then we have the 1 in 25 Raphael Albuquerque variant. It's really nice. The art is fantastic in this. There's a shot of Batman coming out of the Batmobile, just where he's almost completely silhouette except for his eyes. And I mean, I felt tension in this of like, oh, you just did this, Dick, and Batman is not going to approve of this. What is he going to say when he gets to you? Like, it is very tense in a way of like, oh, you just screwed yourself up. So, really good. Definitely kind of at the top of my recommend this week.
All right, so nothing against the other very good books that are out this week, but I think I have by far the biggest book of the week, and it's also my pick of the week, is Venom #1. Much delayed, but worth the wait. That is my summary of this book. So this is a double-sized first issue. This has 2 writers. You got Al Ewing on it and Ram V on it. And then you have Brian Hitch doing the art. Now, they have very large shoes to fill because Donny Cates' run on Venom was just, one of the greatest runs on Venom ever. It may go down in history as the best run on Venom, possibly. I have a lot to say about this issue. There are some first appearances in it that I will talk about. You're not going to know exactly who they are, but I will mention them because people want to know these things. So the first thing I'll say is, Eddie Brock is such a cool character. He's complicated. He's one of my favorite characters. But one thing that you forget that this reminds you of is he might be a great superhero, but how is he as a dad? Now, we've seen in the previous Venom series, he cares about his son. He'll do anything for his son. But, it's easy to say, I'll give my life for somebody. It's harder to, are you there all the time? How does he divide his time as the new King in Black, but he also has a son, and right away, he's not doing such a good job. I mean, this dude, he's off in space doing King in Black symbiote stuff. That's leaving Dylan alone a lot, and that's where the writing begins, and I like that. Some very grounded writing. I think Ram V might be writing the Dylan Brock parts. I get that sense from it.
I could see Al Ewing also doing the space parts.
Yeah, and so you have 2 stories going on that feel very separate, and are both very, very good in their own ways, and they feel like they're converging. And in this one, they do converge at least for a moment. That's the most I can say, is they converge at least for a moment. We do get the first appearance of a new thing that can control symbiotes and jump into them the way that Eddie can now. Because as the King in Black, he's able to jump into like his consciousness in the different symbiotes. Well, there's something else that seems to be able to do it like him. And this thing has a very dark future it portends. So right away we get, this has to be a bit of a setup issue. It has to be a where do you go once somebody has all this power. And they right away in this issue show that it's not over. There are more things to come for Eddie Brock. But a lot of the story is a Dylan story. He's trying to get used to the fact that he now, in a sense, is Venom. Even though he's not supposed to be, Venom is kind of watching over him. He's not supposed to be out fighting crime. But, I mean, you know how it goes. I mean, things are going to happen. So I will say, let me get back to the Eddie stuff. He also, during this, he gets a vision of future things to come. And so you get another first cameo of a new red symbiote called Bedlam. And there even seems to be something possibly to do with Kang the Conqueror coming up.
Wow.
And I mean, this ain't really spoilers because I don't know either. I'm just telling you some of the stuff. You'll have to see for yourself and see what you can make of it. past that, there is one other first appearance that seems very major. A character named Meridius appears. And I'm not even going to try to explain who I think this character is or what they're up to, because it's right towards the end. It has to do with where Eddie's going in this. And, you know, I think Al Ewing's given a lot of thought, what can I do with this godlike symbiote character? And I think he has really big things set up for him. So like I said, it is two separate stories by two separate authors. But I think this has a very good opening, lots of promise of many things to come. I think the series is going to spend its time half with Dylan and half with Eddie, but I don't think they're always going to be separate. I think they will a lot, however. I felt overall this is a very easy transition from the Donny Cates series to this one. That's what I felt. I didn't know, you know, I read every bit of the Donny Cates one. I read it from issue 1 all the way to its completion, and I didn't know how I'd feel about this one, but it just felt right. That's the best way I can say it. It felt fresh again. It felt like there's a lot at stake, but at the same time, some of my favorite parts of this were actually the Dylan parts, where the stakes were a little bit lower, even though by the end they get pretty high, as you can imagine. So I have so many more things I can say about this, but that's about where I'm going to leave it for now. I think almost everybody is on this. I mean, so many people are on this title already. Yeah. And if you're not, this is definitely a good one to start.
Well, and tell your store too, because this is in our systems how we pull comics. This is actually a different series than the previous one. This doesn't continue that. So let them know if you're on for the other one that you do want to continue getting Venom from this new series.
Yeah, if your store uses Comic Suite like we do, which is one of the major, I think it's the most used point of sale for comic stores, it doesn't switch you over automatically, stupidly. So it leaves you with the Donny Cates stuff, and you won't be getting pulled this one, so let your store know. So got a lot of cool variants to go over. We have this John Romita variant. Then we have the Bichello variant. And, of course, got to get in a Peach Momoko variant. She is definitely doing more abstract than I've noticed this trend with her. She's gone more abstract.
Someone mentioned that one looks a lot like her Venom from Demon Days. The kind of Venom demon that was in the first issue.
Here is the Inhyuk Lee.
That one's awesome.
That one is really good. And that is Dylan.
Yeah.
Dylan's growing up fast. I looked at Dylan in this issue and I'm like, you look.
Weren't you just like
you look a bit older. I mean, that'll do it to you though, being Venom. Here is the Delato. Here is the Todd Knock.
That one really works as the headshot.
It does. Yep, this one is actually quite good. And then we have a blank one, just a blank black one. You can have your favorite artist draw something on it for you. Then we have this 1 in 25 Sienkiewicz that we're selling to our customers for $20 while supplies last. And lastly, the 1 in 50 Medina that we are selling to our customers for $40. So I was really excited to read this one, and it was not a letdown at all. I think this is going to get really good reviews across the board. So, of course, we read them so early, I haven't read what anybody else thinks about this.
That's a crazy, thing to happen, though, because Donny Cates' run on Venom didn't go back to square one. It didn't wrap up in a bow where, he's back in the city.
Huge repercussions.
Yeah, it ramped up, and he kind of got off the roller coaster right at the top, and then someone else has to come in and basically be like, you've got to... There's no way they could do this book and not pick up on what had come before.
That Dylan is now Venom. Yeah. That Eddie Brock's the King in Black.
Yeah, those are huge things. I can't imagine the conversations that Al Ewing had to have with Donny Cates being like, okay, tell me, do you have any extra information, how you were seeing these characters going, or how some of this stuff works? Because that's a big transition between the two.
I think what they said, what Marvel did was they're like, man, Cates' run was so good, we got to get 2 writers in on this after.
Okay, so my next one is staying in the Spider world. This is Amazing Spider-Man 78. And there's always the worry when a book is near weekly. This isn't quite weekly, but it is 2 to 3 times a month. That it's going to drop in some kind of quality. Let me tell you, this is like really, really interesting. I think the rotation of writers and artists on it brings a very fresh feel, and just the opportunity to really explore now that Ben Reilly is Spider-Man. Um, giving us the story quicker makes me feel a little bit more attached to him now, rather than waiting and waiting to really figure out what his story is going to be. Um, this one is a really cool issue. It's, I mean, probably well timed that this deals with Morbius, whose trailer just dropped a couple of days ago. And where we left off Ben Reilly in the last one was he got bit by Morbius. So, I mean, you can.
A vampire clone Spider-Man.
And that's kind of the question when the Beyond Corporation, who we still don't know a whole lot about or what their real motives are, have a moment where they question, should we give him the antitoxin for Morbius's like vampire venom? Because they say, well, what if we just watched and saw it happen? What would happen if a clone uh, got infected by this vampire virus? What would happen to his normal spider powers? Would those increase? So we're getting our first hints in here that, I mean, I don't think anyone really thought the Beyond Corporation was all up and up and in good standings and everything, but we're learning a bit more about them in here, and maybe what their plans are with Ben Reilly. There is also a bit more with Peter now that he's in the hospital, and things are not looking good for him, but he gets a visitor that is pretty cool that maybe is going to help him. And then also we get some more with Misty Knight at the end, and we know we're getting a one-shot story with that team coming up, and a fan favorite character appears in this that I don't remember the last time we saw them or what it was in, but definitely since the recent MCU Disney Plus stuff is now more in people's minds of this character, and what are they wanting to know looking into the Beyond Corporation. So there's a lot of moving elements in here, but I think it works because we are getting it at a fairly rapid pace. We're getting a lot of questions and then answers and more questions. So it's really fun. The art on this is by Sarah Pichelli, who fantastic Spider-Man artist, and I think this is super cool. Plus the places it's going to next, who the big villain is, I'm very excited about because it's one of my favorites. That was our A cover. We have our Rob Liefeld variant, still celebrating Deadpool. And we have the Declan Shalvey variant.
All right, so another really big, very hyped and well-promoted book is What's the Furthest Place from Here, a new series from Image by writer Matthew Rosenberg with art by Tyler Boss. On the cover here, you see what looks like a derelict building. This building is sort of the base of our main characters. It is an old music shop, old record shop. So What's the Furthest Place from Here about? I'm not sure what the title is about, and by the end I don't think you'll know either. I think that's going to come out as this series continues. This is a double-sized first issue, which I am a big fan of. Give me the double-sized first, let me know, let the writing and art tell me in that first issue if I want to keep going or not. So this is set in a post-apocalyptic future with gangs of kids who have strange names like Proof Rock. That's one of the kids' names, Proof Rock. Their base is a record store, so music is a big element to this series as well. And this is a world where there are curfews. Some of the gangs wear like comical masks. You've probably seen on the variant cover, there's like the pig mask. Mm-hmm. And members have to pick a record finds them. It's that sort of story. So in this, it's it's a little like High Fidelity has collided with Lord of the Flies, where it's bad to grow up. We don't know exactly why, but it's once you're a grown up, it seems like you have to go somewhere else. That only kids can be in this area where the different gangs are, even though it seems like they are ruled over by a force, possibly adults. Very, very vague. By the end of the first issue, you just don't quite know those details yet. It feels like it's a big enough world. They have a lot to tell you. It's going to take even more than a double issue to get you there all the way. This one, you're mostly just meeting the gang in the record store, of which I think there's probably about 8 to 10 of them. It mainly follows 2 of them, however. And the narrative is told in these short chapters. And I mean like 3-4 pages, and that's it. It's like chapter 2, chapter 3. And they have just sort of punchy titles. Like one of the chapters is titled Things Happen and Then More Things Happen. You know, so this comic, it's very off the cuff. It's very like punk rock. And I think that is the exact style they're going for. I think that's the sort of person who wants to read it. Somebody who, you know, if that all sounds cool to you, you're going to like it. That is what they are leaning into. It's very stylish. The art's very stylish. The characters are. And even the storytelling, I would say, is just sort of stylized in that way. But I would say there's also just a lot going on that doesn't get explained by the end about the world. You kind of get a sense for what the characters are going to be up to. Obviously, there's gang fights in this. There's at least a gang fight in this. And there's sort of a character by the end who has gone off somewhere, and you get the sense, oh, well, they're going to have to leave their comfort ground to find this person, possibly. That's sort of the sense I got. So that's my spoiler-free wrap-up for What's the Furthest Place from Here. It has several variants. Here is the Martin variant. Looks like another gang that we possibly haven't met, because I don't think I saw them in this issue. And then here is one by Scotty Young. That is one of the important characters from this book. And lastly, here's a cover by Brian Michael Bendis.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's that pig mask I was kind of talking about.
And now the version of this that comes with a record is not out this week.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah. So everyone's looking for that. There's one version of this that comes with a 7-inch record, and it has been delayed. And the delay they sent us, the message they sent us said at some point we get it. Like, they don't even give a date. It's not a week out, 2 weeks out. We don't know. So, just some info.
Yeah, you may want to go ahead and pick one up if you're excited about reading it and you're waiting for the record version. You may want to go ahead and grab a copy so you can read it.
And it is going to be heavily allocated. I think there was like 3,000 of them, which means that stores will be lucky to get 2, 3 maybe.
Yeah. And they are doing a second printing of the one with the record.
Correct.
But even that is going to be limited as well. So let your store know if that's something you want, and they can try to help you track one down at some point. So my next one is going to be... You're going to have to stick with me for this this explanation of it, because it is a very odd story with some really cool elements in it. This is My Date with Monsters, #1. So this is by Paul Tobin, and the art is by Andy McDonald. And it follows a woman named Risa Himura and her daughter Mochi, who I'm guessing that's a nickname.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And Risa is widowed, and she's been going on some dates, some like Tinder-like dates that are not going well. She kind of explains what her red flags are when all this happens. When she is on one date, she gets a text, and the date hasn't been going well, and it says to like meet her in the bathroom, and she goes in there, and there is a giant monster. This monster that is on the cover, that one in the back, the big green one.
That must be a big bathroom.
He takes up a lot of it.
Okay.
And this monster's name is Croak, or at least that's what she calls him. Because it turns out this is a world where your nightmares can manifest and become like real life monsters. And Risa is maybe the reason this has started happening. And also, she is possibly the one who has invented a drug that suppresses nightmares to stop them from coming out. But Croak sleeps next to her bed, or kind of, I don't even know if he sleeps. He just stays up. And when she starts to have nightmares, they're like these beasts that like climb out of the walls and stuff. He eats them. So what does that have to do with the my date with monsters? Well, and you got to stick with me because I'm still trying to figure this out as well. We're probably going to find out more in future issues. The only way to stop the nightmares, especially from the daughter Mochi, she has severe nightmares, and like her monsters are like worse than other ones and are progressively getting worse. The way to stop that is by having a stable home life. So her mother is going on these dates to hopefully find the love of her life and move forward in a stable home so her daughter won't have these nightmares anymore that will manifest monsters. It is a pretty crazy story. A lot of the monster design in it is nuts. This is, I would say, it is a mature humor horror romance. Also, Mochi wants her mom to maybe end up with Croak. So a monster lady romance, and he explains why that can't happen. But it seems like also stuff is getting worse and worse with the nightmares coming out. It's kind of hinted at maybe that's where this is going, is they've got to figure out a way to stop it because I think the drugs aren't working as well anymore. But this is a crazy book. The art is really good. The story is very interesting, but I'll definitely have to read the next one to see like what's the overall story, because it's very funny to see like these dates, but then she has to leave the day early because she has to go fight monsters with like a katana and stuff. This is a new book from Aftershock. If you like all that craziness, you like monsters and kind of a lot of humor, a lot of language, you will most likely like My Date with Monsters. And Aftershock hasn't been doing too many like B covers or open order covers. They've mostly been doing just the A cover and then an incentive. So we have the 1 in 10 Heron variant that we are selling to our customers for $20.
All right, so my favorite DC read of the week was actually Batman the Imposter #2. So Batman the Imposter has such a simple setup, but it's such an interesting one. And all it asks is, how would Batman deal with the fact that somebody could just dress up like him and just kill some people, and then he has to deal with the fallout? And that's what happened in issue 1. Somebody starts just killing criminals dressed like Batman, and even some people close to Bruce Wayne wonder if he hasn't snapped or gone too far. Bruce, of course, is getting help from Dr. Tompkins, who is an old family friend. She's been his counselor in a sense,
Yeah.
doctor and counselor since he was a young boy. So she tries to stop him from continuing to be Batman, but of course he says, no, I can't do that. I got to find this imposter. So in issue #2, the first thing Batman decides is he decides that to catch an imposter, you pretty much have to be everywhere because they can pop up anywhere in Gotham. So, right as Batman decides this, you're like, okay, well, how do you do that? Except that Batman just kind of seems like he is. Well, funny, as you could expect, Bruce Wayne / Batman, he's no dummy. He has a plan for this. You'll have to see what his plan for this, of his plan to be everywhere is. I thought it was a pretty clever plan to try to catch the imposter. So far, there are 10 people dead by the imposter. So you get a sense that there's a lot that is going on between issues as well, that some time has passed and this imposter keeps killing criminals. One big question is there a pattern to it? Because if this person is just trying to ruin Batman, they could just kill 10 anyone.
Yeah.
But it seems like there is a bit of a pattern, and Batman explores that. But I'd say my favorite part of this is that there's a police detective, and her name is Blair Wong. And she's trying to figure out who Batman is because, the police don't know, is it the real Batman, is it not? They just know a Batman's killing people. So to do that, she's looking into all these different facets of Batman, and she ends up interviewing Bruce Wayne because she figures Batman has all his technology, somebody with money must be funding him. Well, instead of just getting her off his back, Bruce decides that he wants an in with the police. He wants to know how much the police know. So he looks up her info, and it turns out she has a very similar past to him. In fact, right down to she witnessed her parents' deaths. Mm. So there's some really good conversations with them where Bruce is trying to play her, but you get the sense that this is more than he expected, and they form a real connection. Mm. It's some of the best part of this. So he's trying to get info, but really he's kind of getting too close. And all that in this is very good. And where it goes kind of surprised me. They take it further than I expected. Mm. So by the end of this issue, what I'd also say is I thought for sure at the end of the first one I knew who the imposter is. This is just a 3-issue miniseries. So I was like, there's only so many characters. The imposter is that one. Mm. By the end of this issue, I am not so sure. In fact, now there are 2 suspects that I have. So I like that. It's a mystery that has broadened. So a lot better than I expected. I was a little worried this would be too simple a tale of just 3 issues, but this second one really good. The first one I thought was a decent setup. Second one got even better. So that is Batman the Imposter #2. The art to it has been really excellent as well.
Do you feel like you've been given enough clues where when they reveal who it is, you can go back like that?
I think so, because I'll tell you, there's a lot of moments with other people and little conversations and little lines that you're like, I think I get that, but maybe that could mean more. Mm. I do feel like they're placing breadcrumbs where by the end you'll look back. I mean, unless it's like, it's this character from left field.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going that way, though. I like it when
the whodunit has to make you feel like, oh, I only put together those clues. And that's when they're really well done. So it's good to hear that there might be some of that in there.
Yeah, this comic has a lot to do with trauma, a lot to do with Bruce's trauma, the Detective Wong's trauma, and I think it's going to end up having to do with whoever this imposter. Mm. I think they've also had some sort of trauma, possibly similar, but we'll just have to see. So here is the variant by Lee Bermejo, who he gets a lot of work these days. Mm. Not just for DC, because I think I got a Marvel variant. I'll be showing off.
A really cool Marvel variant, yeah.
Later. Okay,
so my next one is Joker #9. This book, it's funny, for being, I wouldn't say like a Batman spin-off book, because I mean Joker, he can carry his own. This feels like when DC does a big event book, or, when you look at, like, certain series, you're like, if you want to follow what's going on in the DC universe, look here. This is what's giving you. This is like that, but for the Batman universe. This is where we're getting a bunch of stuff that is such big plot points. It's like, this has to lead to some big Batman event or something coming down the line. So I can't say too much about this, because I feel like the whole thing is revelations and spoilers and everything for a lot of the stuff that's been going on. But I will say that in this, Gordon finally confronts Joker. He walks into a room and Joker is sitting there with someone else, and they're just chit-chatting. And the other person's like, you gotta leave. And Joker goes, no, he's good. Like, Gordon knows what's going on. Come in here and you can join our conversation. Which, as this whole series has been going on, it is Gordon coming to terms with, can I kill the Joker? Can I find ways around it? Can I get someone else to do it for me? Or is it going to finally come down to me? Well, when he comes face to face with Joker, you'll have to see what happens to where he doesn't immediately just kill Joker right off. He wants some of these answers as well. And this other character who's there has them. So I don't think this other character we've seen, if we have, they've been in the background or something. But turns out they are possibly connected to some of Batman's biggest stories. Um, Death in the Family is referenced. Killing Joke is referenced. And hints are dropped that there may be something connecting all of these huge things. So that's why I say this is a really big deal, because it's delving into very big stories from the history of Batman. Stuff you learn in here um, could definitely set up the future of Gotham, and the villains that are going to inhabit Gotham. So hard to talk about this without spoiling it, but I'll say this character basically takes Gordon and Joker on a tour and gives them answers that both Gordon and Joker want to know. It's rare you get into a situation where Joker's also like, I don't want to kill you right now because you also have things I want to know about. And stuff is revealed about Joker, even his DNA structure and why that's unique. This is just a crazy issue. I won't give away anything else, but this is going really, really cool places. And I mean, so many horror elements are brought into this. And I'm excited to see where the next one goes. We do learn more about Vengeance and her origin. Just you'll have to read it to see. It's crazy, and I know James Tynion. I think he's leaving at issue 14. This is issue 9, so there's about 5 issues left. And after this is over, Joker is going to be basically a whole new character, and so is Gordon, I can imagine. So, yep, Joker number 9, great issue, great cover too. I love both Joker and Gordon being pushed up against a police car. You know, that gives you kind of a hint where they're both now not great people, and they're both kind of on the same level of confused about what's going on.
I will say, after Andy finished reading that, he told me all about it immediately. And yeah, it's hard to talk about that one.
Yeah, because it's like, look to your left. Here's some crazy things. Look to your right. Here's some crazy things.
A lot of major stuff that happens.
Yes. So also some great variant covers. I got to show these together. Make sure I'm holding them the right direction. This is the Suyin variants that are actually connecting with Joker and Punchline. You get them both sitting on a couch. So
Punchline's more leaning. But...
yeah, she won't quite sit down with Joker.
Yeah.
And of course, this does have the backup story about Punchline. Just continues more of the investigation into Punchline and what she's doing and all of that.
Joker makes people too uneasy to want to just sit down next to him.
It's gonna be one of those cushions that has the compressed air, and you sit on it and you get rocketed out. And then we have the 1 in 25 Stoko variant that we are selling for $20.
Okay, so my favorite indie read this week is actually this one called Regarding the Matter of Oswald's Body, because, titles just keep having to get longer and longer. I mean, I joke about that. I don't really mind, what's in a title. But this is a new one from Boom, and I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to tell you all about why this is good. So this is written by Christopher Cantwell with art by Luca Casalanguida. And so,
good pronunciation.
although this story is surrounded by an air of horror, it has something to do with doppelgangers, okay? Like right off the bat, they make it clear there's some horror to this. There's some doppelganger element, some supernatural. Most of it is a very grounded crime story. So it starts out in 1981 where they're exhuming a very famous body. I think you can kind of figure that out by the title of the comic. And this is a historical accuracy. This happened in 1981. So this is one of these comics where they're taking historical things and playing on it. And this is a conspiracy thing. Like, why were they exhuming this body in 1981? I knew a little bit about it, and I read all about it afterwards. It's very interesting. That I guess we could believe enough in conspiracy, even in real life, that we exhume bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, this happened anyway. But most of the story takes place in 1963, and this is about 2 weeks before the Kennedy assassination. There is a mysterious individual who starts entering the lives one at a time of different desperate people who are skilled in various ways. So, for instance, one of them is really good at stealing cars and driving.
Mm.
One of them is a master forger. One of them is a great marksman. And the last guy, and I like this, he's just good at not getting caught. They're all desperate, and one at a time you get to see how this mysterious figure talks him into joining his gang. And he won't even tell them what the job is. It's not even his gang. It's more he's getting them involved in a job that he won't tell them what it is. The dialogue is spot on, though. I mean, the dialogue is great. I just sat back, I read this, I was like, this is just good. I just want to see these character interactions. All the characters had different voices. I just really enjoyed all that. I'm a sucker for a good crime, though.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the end of it, they've pretty much gathered together. You're kind of learning what the job is. Obviously, this has something to do with Lee Harvey Oswald. Doesn't necessarily have to do with his body, because like I said, most of this takes place in 63, where Oswald is not dead yet. But it does have something to do with horror, doppelgangers, which all makes sense if you read about the exhuming of the body in 81. So that's kind of my summary of it. It gave me, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the first time I read 100 Bullets. Agent Graves just going up to different people and convincing them to take the gun, but the just that good dialogue, and just the fact that the people feel like they live very, very different lives. So I recommend it. I think it was an excellent first issue, and here is the variant by Ryan Sook. And then we have this 1 in 25, also by Ryan Sook, for $20 for our customers. And lastly, there is this one per store variant for $30. I feel like conspiracy comics is another rising trend.
Thanks, Department of Truth.
Yeah, you have your animal comics, that's a rising trend, and conspiracy comics, horror comics, of course.
Yeah. So, my next one, don't have like a ton to say about it, but just let you know, this came out, this is Star Wars High Republic number 11. This starts a new story arc called Jedi's End. And if you know what's been going on in High Republic, where apparently the Nile have some kind of invention, some kind of weaponry that essentially, like, basically turns Jedi to stone. It kind of...
A Medusa ray?
Yeah, it turns them, like, all gray and they crumble. And also, like, separates them from the Force. So, of course, this is the Jedi investigating what is this thing that possibly they have, and how does it work. In it, Avar Kriss, the kind of the leader of this team, and Skier, the Trandoshan Jedi that we've seen, take the fight to the Nile. This is a very action-packed issue, really, really good, but wanted to bring this up also just for speculators out there. There's been a lot of talk just the last couple of days that one of the next Star Wars movies is going to be High Republic or Old Republic related content. And, you know, it'd be crazy for them not to use a lot of these elements in it because, you know, it's so well plotted out.
Comics are the testing ground. That's the beauty of being in the comics.
This is Marvel we're talking about now, doing this, and that's what the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, you know, Spider-Verse was a comic first. It's, you know, all of these big storylines, Civil War, Infinity Gauntlet, they all start there, and Marvel has admitted, like, not even admitted, but, you know, said, we love our comics because they are a way that we can judge reaction to certain things and how much people like the storylines and the characters that we can later build upon in other media. So
We are their research and development. All of us that read comics.
yeah, we should get a check for that. But a great issue of High Republic. I'm really excited to see where this goes over this next year. Seems like some big stuff coming. We have this beautiful Peach Momoko variant, and that's just a cover price variant. And then we have the 1 in 25 Dursima variant. We are selling to our customers for $25.
I wouldn't mind seeing Momoko's version, like her Demon Days, but in the Star Wars universe.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, you can see Lorna D on the cover. She's a big part in this right now. Very scary Nile.
She is frightening. It's like She-Hulk in a very bad day in the Star Wars universe. Okay, so I read The Thing #1. So The Thing gets his own miniseries. This is a 6-issue miniseries. And it begins with The Thing's come back from a fishing trip. That sounds very much like something Ben Grimm would be doing. He's on a fishing trip all by himself. He doesn't take a cell phone. He doesn't like cell phones, so nobody's heard from him.
Well, it's really hard for him to press the buttons on it. He just crushes them.
I guess that's true, yeah. He's kind of old school as well. Well, he gets back to where they all live, and everyone's gone. Everyone is off doing different missions. So he comes home. He's by himself, and of course, this affords him the right amount of alone time to get into trouble.
Yeah.
Because when you're that big, even a little miscommunication can end up with you destroying a city block or wrecking a car by accident.
Accidentally clobbering things.
Exactly. Just miscommunications. So, of course, something lands him in prison where he runs into Hercules, who's also in prison for much the same thing, for being a big guy who gets drunk and, whoops, I mess up the humans' world. Hercules, though, recognizes that he claims that the Thing is cursed. He looks at him and he says, I see it, you're cursed. And, Thing doesn't really take him very seriously. I will say this curse he sees seems to be a new villain. And so this does have a couple first appearances. I think they're minor in the way I feel like they're just for this run. But whoever this curse character is definitely first appearance. There's another little sprightly character that gets a first appearance later in as well, just so everybody knows. They are first, but I see them as minor, but important to this 6-issue run. So even after Ben gets out of jail, bad things happen to him. This is set before he's married to Alicia, so they actually break up because of some dumb things he does, which I have to say, they were legitimately dumb. Like, a lot of times it's like, oh, miscommunication, I'm on your side. Some of the things he says, I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, you need to cool down. But there's a lot of other things that happen in the last third of this. Like, for instance, there's a dating app that reaches out to him. There's a new love interest. And another suitor who's ready to fight him over this new love interest. So
everybody
and more.
wants a bit of the Thing.
And will Hercules be back? It was kind of fun watching them hang out in prison. I don't know if he's going to be back or not. So that's what's generally going on in the first issue of The Thing. Much, much more if you read the full issue, however. And here is the Lee Bermejo variant. That's right, he's not just over at DC. He comes over to Marvel and does great things all the time.
Holding a Doombot head?
Yeah.
So my next one is one that I'm going to briefly talk about, because this is, I believe, without finding any clarification anywhere, I think this is the final issue of Vampirella before they launch into a new series called Vampirella Dracula Unholy, because this is the wedding issue. Vampirella is getting married, and as you can imagine, it is full of vampires and blood and horrible things happening. But
if she puts on a wedding dress, that'll be the most clothes she's been on.
Don't worry, it's pretty sheer.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Her skin can still breathe. But fun issue, and just letting you know because it also has some really great variant covers, and
Yeah,
a lot of them.
The variants for Vampirella this week are some of my favorite covers. Like, I was kind of blown away by this.
So first is the TMNT homage cover.
And I think this is the first in a series of the ones
Yes.
that Dynamite's doing.
Mm-hmm. Over like
So,
all of their titles.
I have some to show later, but they're week after week, and I think people are gonna catch on these late. So if you think this is cool and you want them all, start asking your comic store for all of them.
Yeah. So,
We've already had to order probably like 3 weeks of them at this point.
Yep. Then we have the beautiful Rose Besch variant. Dynamite's got Rose Besch on some kind of contract right now because there's quite a few of hers coming out.
That is true.
Then this is a big one. This is kind of what brought all this to our attention. This is the Fleece Stray Dogs variant.
Yeah, how cool is that?
Mash up with the fan favorite Image series Stray Dogs.
From the very artist from Stray Dogs.
From the artist from Stray Dogs, who turns out is the only, this funny little note, is the only person who can draw anything Stray Dogs related. Like, that's why all the variant covers are the same artist and everything. He's basically, like, contracted that only he can do them. So if your store wants to get, like, a store exclusive variant, he is the only artist that can do it for that book. So, pretty cool. So, we'll definitely maintain the continuity of the look of all the characters.
I mean, I have to say, I'm amazed. I know this is Vampirella 25, big deal and all, but a TMNT homage, a Besch cover, and a Stray Dogs cover by the artist.
Yep. So then we have, and if people don't know, Dynamite does not just 1 in 10s, 1 in 20s. They do like 1 in 11s, 1 in 12s.
It's almost like a joke, I think.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't know.
like
It's very...
1 in 10, we'll do one better.
I was about to say, every time you go, add 1. Oh, but then I can get this cover if I add 1 more. So they do a little bit of that. So we have a 1 in 11 black and white version of the artist is Hessier. We're selling this to our customers for $10. Then, here's a big one. This is the 1 in 11 Fleece Virgin variant for the Stray Dogs cover. Really nice. And this one we are selling to our customers for $15. Getting some other ones. So we've got a 1 in 10 Inhyuk Lee variant for $10. We've got a 1 in 15. This one's really nice. This is kind of like the silver Rose Besch cover.
Was this the last issue of this Vampirella series?
I think so.
I thought so.
Because I looked at the end, and where they usually show like the cover for the next issue, it shows the cover and talks a little bit about the series Vampirella Dracula Unholy. Which looks really interesting. That also has some really great covers, a really great Rose Besch cover you can see in the back of this. So this one we are selling for $10. Then I love this one. This is the 1 in 15 Emma Lupicchio variant. We're selling for $15. And then the Virgin variant of that, which was a 1 in 25, that we are selling for $20. So, really interesting stuff going on with Vampirella. That new series looks really good, so we'll probably be talking about that when it comes out in December.
Okay, so my next one, I read I Am Batman, number 3.
You're always claiming that you're Batman. Every couple of weeks you declare I am Batman.
That's right. Even though I don't have near a deep, gravelly enough voice from what I hear. So, in this issue, Tanya Fox, who, of course, is the mother of Jace Fox, and she's a lawyer, she is taking on the case of the guy who, in the previous issue, killed Anarchy. And this guy is a part of this organization called the Moral Authority. which I think
That is so like pretentious.
I know it's a great name for a group that you just want to hate.
Yep.
So yeah, they're called the Moral Authority, and this is a group that is run by Seer. Now, who is Seer? Seer is the identity of the anti-Oracle. So we still don't have a first appearance. People talking about this person left and right. No full first appearance, however. So the Moral Authority, their whole deal is they kill masks and villain, whether they're good or bad, but they're also anti-magistrate. They're just their own thing. It almost seems like Seer's still doing his whole like just try to cause chaos thing from Fear State, which this is still a part of Fear State. So Tanya Fox is going to try to be the defense attorney for this individual who's young. I mean, he's not even 18 years old. I think she's trying to help in the way of like try to figure out who the Moral Authority are. And so while she's there, a bunch of other members of the Moral Authority show up, and they all have guns, and they're trying to break into the building. Well, this gets back to Jace, so of course, as Batman, he's already interested, but when he learns his mother is trapped in the very same building, he, double times it over there. So it's a good action-y issue where Jace gets to show off how Batman reacts to this sort of situation. He gets into a lot of battles, and what I thought was funny is there's a part where the magistrate people who are in the building, they're scared because of how many people from the Moral Authorities out there, and someone's like, "Hey, Batman's out there. What should we do?" And Jace's mom's like, "You should help him. He's like trying to save us." So it's like maybe the first time some magistrate people actually kind of help Batman in a way. Not much. You'll have to see what they do, but still, it's like, oh, okay, they are smart enough to help occasionally. So we do finally get a run-in between Jace as Batman and his mother. So that happens, and in the end, probably the most interesting thing is that Seer may offer up a location to Batman, almost an invitation. So I'm just wondering what series is going to be the one to show the anti-Oracle first. So we'll just
kind of like being like, "Oh, look over here, it's over here. Nope, it's over here," and they keep going back and forth.
So here is the Jacinto variant for I Am Batman #3.
My next one is one of the most fun books currently coming out. This is Harley Quinn, the Eat, Bang, Kill Tour. And in this one, I mean, as you know, it's Harley and Ivy, because of some, I almost want to say some miscommunication, but at Poison Ivy's wedding, turn of events have set up where she ended up saying, like, "I do" to Harley, and Harley is all for this, and so now they're going on their honeymoon, which is this, and they're getting into hijinks along the way. So this one's funny because it starts out, and the writing knows exactly what you're thinking. This starts out with a fight between Harley and Hush in a fancy restaurant. And it starts just like, "Oh, what happened in the last issue?" And then Harley breaks the fourth wall, and it's like, "I bet you're wondering how we got here." And so we go back and see how it all led up to this. And it's it surprised me because, I mean, the big villain in this series is Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
That man in this series is a psychopath.
He's crazy.
And in this, the Bat family, Dick Grayson and Batgirl, and some villains as well, actually help Harley and Ivy get away from Gordon. Because they know that they're not causing any trouble. Some turn of events where it looks like that Harley and Ivy took some hostages at this restaurant, but they didn't actually. It was, the people they caught were actually the bad guys. And this is fun of them just trying to, like, have a normal trip, and bad stuff happens around them. And you get the Bat family there to help them get away. So it's a kind of a fun turn of events for a normal kind of villain series. But this one's great. It's as kind of irreverent and over the top and everything, as you've come to get used to. There's a lot of talk about Nightwing's butt in this and him working out and stuff. That's very funny. But this is definitely just one of the most fun books coming out right now. I really really liked it. And so we've got our main cover, which we're almost sold out of. So many people have been adding the series that we are very low on this issue. So if you like it, let your store know because it's selling fast. And then we have the Megan Hetrick variant.
Okay, so I read Phenom X, the new Image series, which is co-written by John Leguizamo, which I have to say, if you look at the main character, I dare say there is a bit of resemblance.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've enjoyed John Leguizamo since he was a comedian and then he turned actor. Very talented, funny individual. He's also good at playing like crazy people or somebody who's sinister.
Yeah.
He's good at doing that too. He has some range to him. So he co-wrote this comic, maybe hoping that he could turn into something else. I don't know. So this is a double-sized first issue. So once again, gets my thumbs up on that. And this is a new world that they're creating with superpowered people. He's not the only superpowered person in it. Right away, you get introduced to several others, most of which are villains, but you don't learn why. It's one of these stories where they just throw you into it, and then the narrator breaks in. He's like, "Oh, well, let me show you, what happened." And so our main character, his name is Gomez. And there is this government agency who's giving people powers, but it turns out it's through radiation. It turns out that most of the subjects won't live, and they discover the ones that it's worked on are people who live in a certain part of the city. It's sort of a derelict part of the city where they've been dumping illegal chemicals for years because these people have gotten used to lower doses of radiation. And it works best, funny enough, on people with the DNA who are Hispanic as well. So some of the people turn good, some of them turn bad. It seems the government agency has trouble controlling them once they do this. But that's okay because that's created a nice little world for Leguizamo and the other writers to write fun stories in. So our main character, we get some backstory on him. It begins with him, and he had a bit of a sordid life. It starts with him, his origin with him in prison, but he is determined that when he gets out, he's going to turn it around. So he definitely has some good intentions, and of course, the government agency approaches him and wants to experiment. He's not at all for that, but you know how it goes. They don't take no for an answer, and so he ends up getting his powers. You'll have to see exactly how, and you'll have to see. Does he still work for them? Does he get away? Now, what are Phenom X's powers? They don't come out and exactly tell you, but from what I could tell, it seems like he can absorb the material that he touches and make it part of him. That's what I think some of his powers are.
Kind of absorbing man from Marvel.
It does seem to be like that, but that might not be the only powers because I also know that when they give him the drug, he gets like real buff. There is a lot of humor to this. Also, there are some parts that made me laugh that were certainly supposed to. There's definitely some funny language, some funny scenes, some stuff that's borderline adult but not too over the line. Sort of PG, almost R-rated. Which I'm not surprised. I mean, John Leguizamo's behind it. That's sort of like been his sense of humor. So that is what's going on with Phenom X. It's an origin issue with setting up a little bit of the world, a bit of the villains. There is this McFarlane variant for it. This is an open order variant. So Todd McFarlane worked with Leguizamo back on the original Spawn movie. And I think that's where this connection came. And of course, he brought the book to Image, and so McFarlane was cool enough to do a cover for him. And then we have this 1 in 10 Muniz variant for $15.
Okay, next up, I have Action Comics 1036. This is the beginning of the War World Rising story, where Superman and the Authority are going to War World to liberate them. He's had enough of this planet that is basically just big gladiatorial arenas and war constantly going on, and he has to use the Authority, who are a little less scrupulous about their methods and everything, because he knows this is going to take a bit more to do it. This was a good issue. It's definitely set up for what's coming on War World. We know that in Future State, if this is heading that direction, Superman is going to get brought into it on his own, fighting in the arena and everything. In that, though, it's funny, we didn't see the Authority. So what happens to them, we're not sure. But this one does, it kind of has the Superman making his declaration to War World about what he's about to do, and he won't stand for it anymore. And he gets confronted by some of Mongol's people. So there are some first appearances in this of what I would call Mongol's champions. They are, let's see, the Mother, the Orphan, the Darling, and the Unmade. So we get a couple of characters. I'm going to guess by the end of this story arc, we will have none of these characters left, because I don't think they're going to survive it. But it's been rumored that Superman is maybe going to die coming up, and we'll have to see if that really happens. They've done that before, I've heard, back a few years ago. We'll see. This was a good issue. I'm excited to see what this War World story is going to bring. I'm still not quite sure. They're really hyping this up as like a big event. And it's hard to hype up a big event that takes place on another planet, that it's like doesn't really take into account any of the characters that you've kind of you're reading in other books and everything, other than Superman and the Authority. So that's one of the things that makes me think that something's going to happen to some of them. But the other thing, a lot of people were having questions about, when does Superman and the Authority, the 3-issue Grant Morrison book, take place? Because he looks different in there. He's got gray temples. He's a bit older looking. But he's talking about, like, he hasn't gone to War World yet, but the Superman in this looks different. All of that is explained. The timeline is cleared up in this issue. And it's really interesting to see Superman maybe not at his prime, but still fighting the good fight. So this is the A cover. And then we have the Totino variant, which is great. Very classic Superman.
All right, so Miles Morales, issue number 32, is out tomorrow. In the previous issue, Miles was on a date with Starling that got rudely interrupted by Taskmaster. Now, Taskmaster, he's pretty much only going to attack you if somebody has paid him to. So the question with him is always, who's behind it? That's what's he's such a great villain in a lot of ways, you know. I mean, the fact that he's so tough, he can mimic what you do, but also it always means he's the perfect sub-villain.
Yeah.
You know, there's always a bigger boss. So, in this issue, Miles has to reach out to another young hero for help, another newer fan favorite character I think everyone will be really happy to see in this series, one we don't see in this series very much. And while Starling is in captivity, we get more of her origin, you know, so she's kind of out of commission, so instead we get to see things she's thinking about, her past, when she first got her wings, you know, just fleshing her character out more. Will they learn by the end of the issue who hired Taskmaster? I will not reveal that. And what happens when maybe a cease and desist order from Beyond Corporation shows up?
Oh, that's what I've been excited to see.
Yeah, me too. So I was wondering when you were going over Amazing Spider-Man if any of that was going to be in it, but it seems
Not
like
yet.
this
I
is
think
the
that's
first
the first.
peep of the whole Ben Riley versus Miles thing that's about to
Yeah.
happen. So that's about all I can say on Miles Morales issue number 32. And it didn't have a variant. It just had an incentive variant. And that was it. And we're already sold out of ours.
So I had somebody ask me, they wanted to be on everything with the crossover between Miles and Ben Riley in the Beyond story. Do you feel like this is a good starting point for that, or does it feel like it's such a little thing?
It's a little
It'll
thing.
probably be the next issue.
Yeah, it's a little thing. I mean, if they really want everything,
Every little mention and everything, but
if they want like you're being served,
yeah,
and there's a letter, that's
okay,
a lot of it.
So not quite to the crossover yet, but just the.
Well, Miles was busy doing his own stuff in this.
Yeah.
I mean, when you got Taskmaster has your girlfriend kidnapped, that's sort of enough of a plot.
Yeah. Okay, so my next one is. Let me make sure I always have to think backwards when we're doing this. Wonder Woman. This is Wonder Woman 781. So I'm not. It's got the A story. It's good. There's a great Twilight Zone reference in it that you'll have to see. But I mainly want to talk about the backup story in this because this is leading into Trial of the Amazons. It's our first hint at this big Wonder Woman crossover event that's going to be coming next year. That's going to be through Wonder Girl. It's going to include, Diana, Artemis, Nubia, all of them. And we're getting our first little taste in here of what that's going to be. So the main storyline ends, and then there's a probably 5 or 6 page backup story. So it is separate. It's not woven into the main story. And in it, there are 3 women who have been brought before some of the Amazons. It's hard to tell which. Now we know that there's like multiple Amazon groups out there, because this one I don't believe Nubia was in, so this seems more of like an underground Amazon group. But Artemis is there, and these 3 women claim that they are tired of the world and how it's treating them and everything, and they want to join the Amazons. And as we know from some of the other books involving the Amazonians and Themyscirans and everything, that the well of souls that has been that was birthing new Amazonians, nothing has come out since Nubia, right? It was Nubia that was the last one that came out of there.
Until the recent issue of Nubia.
Okay, well, yeah. But it seems like maybe something has been going on where the Amazonians want to grow their numbers, and so they are now willing to take in new people, but they have to pass a challenge first. The Amazonians, they love their challenges. Yeah. They love their little games and everything. I won't say what it is because, as you can imagine, there's a twist to it that maybe only some can figure out and get through. And someone does pass this test and are granted a new name. They are granted a Amazonian name. And I feel like this is a big deal that maybe we're going to start seeing some new key Amazonian characters that are going to be big in this upcoming story start to come into this. So I thought it was a really cool story. It was a really interesting lead-in because it gave a little air of like, are they doing this in secret? Is this okay with the other Amazons that they're setting this up? Especially the challenge is a weird one. So really cool. And if you're excited about Trial of the Amazons coming up next year, this is your first introduction into what that might be about. And no variant for this one this week. I think we already sold out of it.
That is an important backup story.
Yeah, very important backup story to something that I think is going to be pretty big coming up.
Okay, so I didn't read this one, but I wanted to talk about it. This is Nyx #1 from Dynamite. So who is Nyx? Nyx is From she's a character from the pages of Vampirella and Sacred Six. She is half human, and her father is the god of chaos. He's a chaos god, a chaos demon. So she's not necessarily a very nice character. But I wanted to make everyone aware of this number one this week, and what I wanted to do is show off some of the variants because there's some I think some people might be interested in out there. So here is the Simpson variant, but check some of these out. So there is another TMNT homage variant. Like I said, I think some people are going to want to collect every single one of these. I kind of do. And there's a 1 in 11 of that we're selling for $10. Then there's a Rose Besch variant for it. Check out that hair. There's a 1 in 10 of that for $10 for our customers. There's a 1 in 40 that we're selling for $45. The Virgin black and white variant. And the last one I wanted to show, because we're on the Besch train, is Future State number 7 has a Besch variant out this week as well that I didn't want anyone to miss out on. Her star is rising. A lot of people are grabbing up all the Besch stuff. Want to make sure that you know to look for this one in your store tomorrow.
Interesting note for the Rose Besch fans out there. Nyx number 1, she did the B cover for the variant for, but all of the issues coming up, she's doing the A covers of. So if you get the B cover for this one, then you can sign up for the series, and you'll just be getting all the Besch covers as long as she's doing the A, which is, as far as I know, the first 3 or 4 are by her. It may switch up later, but they're really nice covers too. I think they're even stronger than this one.
I like keeping up with those up and coming artists, because it wasn't that long ago. It's like Jenny Frison stuff went up.
And we were saying this new artist Peach Momoko is really starting to do a lot of stuff.
When Art Germ cover started getting really big, and now we have also like Sway slash Swabby.
Yeah.
So I'd like to keep up with them.
Yeah.
Gleason, it's another one.
Gleason, I mean, there's an amazing Spider-Man cover coming up with Gleason that's really awesome. But the last one I want to talk about, not Rose Besch related, is Batman Urban Legends number 9. And just a note on this, it is a tie-in to Fear State. It's got a story with Batwoman, as you can see on the cover right here, as well as there's a Tweedledee and Tweedledum story, which is very odd but cool. And there is an Azrael story, and this is mainly what I wanted to say, is there is a character in the Azrael story that I'm not sure is a first appearance. I showed Jason and said, have you ever seen this character before? I'm pretty good at, even if I don't know their names, I can be like, yeah, I've seen that character before.
We didn't recognize.
Reminds me very much of a character that used to be in Grant Morrison's JLA. I'll just leave it at that. But if people read this and see it and recognize the character, let us know in the comments. Or say, I've never seen this one before. This might be a new character. Because they have a really cool look. And then there's also the final part in the Outsider story, wrapping up that one. So we have the A cover. We have the beautiful Francavilla Batwoman.
Yeah.
I really want Francavilla to do a whole Batwoman story because I think it would fit perfectly. And then we have, of course, this is the, make sure I'm right, Frederici cover with Azrael on it, which is very hard to see, but looks great in person. You can just see the reflection of our screen.
All right, so that is our review show for this week.
One last thing to mention, this also came out. I meant to add this in when I talked about Star Wars.
Rewind.
But the manga for Star Wars Guardians of the Whills came out, and this is cool. And what the note about this is actually an adaptation of a book that Greg Rucka wrote. Famed comic writer Greg Rucka done,
Old Guard.
Old Guard and done Punisher and everything. So this is a prequel to Rogue One. So look for this in your stores as well. The Star Wars manga has been really, really good. So check that one out.
And now that is our show.
Oh, wait! No, I don't have anything else. That's it.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. We hope we have done our job and told you more about these comics, prepared you to go to your comic store tomorrow or whatever day you make it in there. And now you know what these books are about, which ones are for you and which ones are not for you. So thanks for watching, and we'll be back on Friday with Comics from the Future, where we go over all the open order comics still available and all the new variants that have been released at that point. So thank you, and we will see you then.